Greetings and welcome to the Capsource investor call. My name is Jeff Winkler. I'm the court-appointed receiver for Capsource Incorporated. Today is March 18th, 2026 at approximately 10 a.m. Pacific time. A quick reminder that nothing in this call should be construed as legal or accounting advice. If you have any legal questions or accounting questions, we do recommend that you reach out to competent counsel to discuss those issues. We're going to give a brief overview of what's going on in the case, as well as answering some investor-specific questions. So we're just going to go ahead and get started with that right now. So the first questions we got from investors is, why haven't I received any interest payments in January related to the ARC investment? ARC is still facing significant financial issues related to insurance reimbursements and payments. We've been working with them continuously in order to try to get this situation resolved. At this point, it looks like it's going to be April before we're going to start seeing a resumption of payments. But as I said, we are working both with ARC and with our legal counsel to determine the next steps and what will be appropriate moving forward. There's very little assets remaining in the case, and so we're hoping to get that one resolved so that we can close the case as quickly as possible. Next question has to do with claims. Will there be a claims process to follow for investments in order to be able to write off any losses? The answer is we don't yet know if there will be a claims process. At this point, it's looking less and less likely, but we are still exploring all options and been working with the SEC and with other parties to determine if we can create a pool of assets large enough to distribute out to investors, at which time we would want to do a claims process. So we are still working on that, but don't yet have an answer to that question. As far as whether or not you can write off or how to write off, that is unfortunately an accounting question that you'll need to talk to a CPA, but there are options available. And if your CPA has specific questions, they're welcome to reach out to us, and we're happy to provide them that information. Next, I want to talk a little bit, just give some overview, because we've used some terms and I think that people can get confused by them. One of them is in regard to principal reduction loans. So these are loans that which the asset was not performing as expected, and so decisions were made to take or to sell the asset at what ultimately ended up being a loss, and so people did not receive 100% of their money back. And so when we make reference to a principal reduction loan, that is what we're talking about specifically. And some examples of those are like Fifth Avenue, 215 Bridge Street, and some other smaller investments as well as, for example, Promenade Partners, Granada Management, Garden Street Holdings, Ranch 80, and others. The next thing we want to talk about is claims and whether or not we're going to have a claims process and what that would look like. The goal is always to try to collect as much money as possible. And to the extent we are able to collect additional funds in the case, we would then look to do a claims process to pay out people who were part of the principal reduction loans or for any other reason that they did not receive 100% of their principal back. The questions about ARC, as I said, we do look at, based on the financials reviewed and information we received, we do believe that payments will resume in April, but we are looking at a longer-term solution on how to get that loan paid off so we can get investors paid back and get the case closed. Fillmore's an investment in North Dakota. We had a buyer lined up. Unfortunately, the buyer backed out at the last second. And we've been working with legal counsel to look at what our remedies are and the best way to move forward. So we will continue to do that as well. As this case, works towards wind up, when we do reach the end of the case, assuming that there are funds available, investors in Meadows, King 261, and JC Commercial would be looking at potential additional distributions pursuant to the distribution plan that was approved by the court. But the timing and amounts of those are not yet known at this time. We did get some specific loan questions. First one is, why did I not get a distribution for Fifth Avenue? If you have that, if you're in that situation where you were in the first position or second position on that loan and have questions about payout on it, please do reach out to us. We're happy to look up your information and determine if you were entitled to payment and perhaps we mailed payment out and you didn't receive it, or if you were in a class or in a position that you were not not going to be entitled to a payment due to the fact that that was a principal reduction loan, and we did not receive 100% of the principal back on that loan. But again, we're happy to work through that with you. A question about Meadows 78. Last year, I submitted a fair market value to Horizon Trust IRA that shows Meadows with an outstanding value, but according to Capsource investment reports, the account is zero. Why is there a difference, and how do I write it off? Again, if this is one of the loans that received a partial payout pursuant to the distribution plan, there may be additional payments available to you. But if you have specific questions about the valuation on it, please do reach out to us, and we're happy to work through it with you. The next question is about Fillmore and when will Fillmore Trust be sold? Again, we had a buyer lined up. Unfortunately, that buyer fell through. The economic situation in North Dakota is not great currently, and so we are looking at what options we have to in order to deal with Fillmore and to try to monetize it if possible. And then the last question we have is regarding ARC, and will ARC option 3 conclude by the end of 2026? We sure hope so. It's our goal to try to get that done as quickly as possible. We'd love to get this case closed, as with the SEC. And so we're doing everything we can in our power and exploring all options to help bring that to a resolution as quickly as possible, while still ensuring that people get paid in that case. So those were all the questions that were submitted to us and all the information that we have right now. I know that there's not a lot to say. And like I said, unfortunately, the biggest issue right now is dealing with ARC and how we're going to deal with ARC and then Fillmore. Once we get through those two situations, then we can get this case wrapped up and get people their money. If you have questions, I recommend you reach out to us via email. That email address is contact@capsource-receivership.com. Again, that's contact@capsourcereceivership.com. You can also call us at area code 971-357-2220. Again, that's 971-357-2220. And you can also get on our website and register. And by doing so, that will allow you to get notice from us as things happen in the case. And that website is capsource-receivership.com. Again, that's contact@capsource-receivership. Capsource-receivership.com. Again, for clarity, one more time. The website again is capsource-receivership.com. So I encourage you to go there. You can find all the latest documents that are there. This information has been copied into the chat room. So I encourage you to go there to get that information and to reach out to us if you have any specific questions. Specific questions are much easier to answer on a one-on-one basis. So please do reach out if you have specific questions, and we'll be happy to answer those as quickly as we possibly can. I appreciate you guys taking the time to join the call today, and hope to have more news for you the next time we talk. Thank you again.